Well, it might be finally time to say goodbye to my 2019 KTM 790 Adventure R. But the real question remains is, do I swap it out for another mid-size adventure bike, or is it time I switch to a two-bike garage, maybe a small and a larger adventure motorcycle? I'm gonna need your help deciding, so fire up in the comments below as I let you know my shortlist for 2023 adventure motorcycles. So right off the bat, a very clear upgrade for me would be the new 2023 890 Adventure R from KTM. Now this seems like a very safe and obvious choice. I absolutely love this bike, and I have no doubt that I will love that 890 even more so. The issue I'm having is kind of spending the money on a bike that is essentially the same thing. And when it comes to adding the upgrades that I will want to add, I've already done it to this bike. And as somebody who likes to enjoy different motorcycles, something just isn't quite sitting right with me in that decision. Fortunately, there are some newcomers to the mid-size adventure bike class that I'm really excited to sink my teeth into. First of all, early next year in 2023, Australia will finally receive the Yamaha Tenere World Raid. Now, I'm not the biggest fan of the current Tenere. I think it's a great motorcycle. I think that the engine is fantastic. I just think that now with the increase in price that it's had, it's a little bit overrated, but the new World Raid does look pretty good. I'm happy that they increased the fuel capacity on that motorcycle and put the fuel tanks lower and tighter to the engine, improving that mass centralization. One of the problems I really had on the standard Tenere is just the top heavy feeling that it has. Overall, the World Raid looks like a great do-everything platform, but there are a few issues that I'm struggling with. First of all, even though the suspension has been updated, it's still not great. We've still got 43mm forks, and those just aren't good enough for big, heavy adventure bikes, in my opinion. Secondly, we still have really no electronics. We don't have any rider modes, any traction control. We don't even have cruise control on the bike. And when the bike is going to cost the same as the KTM 890R, at least according to my dealer, I'm really having trouble agreeing with that price point. So that's going to be something that is going to be hard for me to justify, but still, I do love the engine, and I do think it would be a great starting platform for customization. Okay, the last bike that piques my interest in the mid-size class is the Ducati Desert X. I've heard some really great things coming from people who've already ridden this motorcycle. It looks really, really cool with that old school Paris-Dakar styling. And overall, the specs seem really, really good. I'm gonna have to throw my leg over to really get to know that bike. A couple of issues I do have with that motorcycle is, one, it's a Ducati. I'm not a massive fan of the Ducati brand, but I don't hate them as well. It's just something that I've never really been interested in. Secondly, and this actually might be a deal breaker, is that the air filter is located under the fuel tank, meaning you have to remove that fuel tank to access it. I ride it here in Australia where it is extremely dusty in summer and still pretty dusty in winter as well. So having to take a fuel tank off every time I need to clean that air filter, that would become annoying very, very quickly. And lastly, the suspension still doesn't seem to be holding up as best as we need it to, with many reporting that it does bottom out quite regularly, particularly on the shock. The Desert X does seem cool. It seems like a bike I'm very interested in, and a test ride will have to be the final factor, I think. Okay, so this is the part of the video where things get a little bit more radical. Two-bike garage. Should I do it? The reason I'm thinking about that is the kind of riding that I do is quite vast. I like to ride my bike on the weekends through the local trails and the local forests, and then a good handful amount of times throughout the year I like to do big long road trips throughout the state of Western Australia and go exploring and go camping on the bike. In 2023, I hope to have more opportunities to go motor camping across vaster distances around Australia, so you can see why I am tempted to maybe look at this two-bike solution. So let's start off with the small bike that I'm thinking about, because it doesn't really have any competition, and that's the KTM 690 platform. And to be honest, I'm kind of tempted to go the gas variant just because I think the red bike looks sick. A typical weekend ride is about 45 minutes to an hour at highway speeds before jumping into the trails and spending the rest of the day hitting all kinds of terrain, from technical single track to really fun, twisty two-track So I think that this bike with a rally tower would be absolutely perfect. I think it would also allow me to still moto camp on it, particularly when the trips demand more of a off-road focused machine. So that leaves me with 3 big bore adventure motorcycles that I'm thinking about that would be perfect for the kind of moto camping trips and traveling that I want to do on 2 wheels. This bike needs to be comfortable, it needs to have good fuel capacity, and it needs to be able to still tackle off-road because I still want to be able to rip on it when I get to my destinations. For me, in the big bike category, that really leaves only 3 options, and those are the 3 options with 21-inch front wheels. First of all, the Honda Africa Twin is just iconic in this sector. I think that its reliability, its fun torquey engine, and its general ergonomic comfort will just be perfect for this kind of riding. Now the cons in the way that I see them are firstly the controls and electronics on the bike. I think it's just very confusing. There are so many buttons and a very confusing menu system. It's something I would probably get used to, but still something that kind of sours the ownership experience, I think. And finally, I'm not fully sold on the colorways of this motorcycle. I know that's not a big deal, but I'm not a big fan of the red, white, and blue, even though it obviously is iconic. It's just not for me. Okay, so next up in my big bore shootout, we have the KTM 1290 Super Adventure R. This thing is an absolute weapon. I do believe that this is the best performing motorcycle of the 3 when it comes to off-road riding, both due to the chassis, the suspension, and of course, those low slung fuel tanks. I think collectively this works to produce a bike that is so much fun to rip on, and it's something I want to be able to do on my bike, even when I've done 10 hours on the highway. When I finally reach my destination, I want to go exploring. Now there are some cons to the KTM. I promise I won't be so biased towards the brand. Obviously we have the reliability issues with KTM. Personally, I have never experienced any of them, but there's no lying that they are out there. The bike is also probably the least comfortable of all 3 when it comes to highway riding. I think that's highlighted by its wind dynamics, but also the creature comforts that it comes with, or in its case, it doesn't come with. No heated grips, no heated seats is standard. Those are all extras that need to be added on. Okay, the last big bore adventure motorcycle that takes my fancy is the Triumph Tiger 1200 Rally Explorer. I personally think that Triumph have done a really good job in improving their motorcycles, particularly when it comes to off-road performance. They've tried really, really hard, and it shows in the quality of the motorcycles that they've been putting out. I think the triple engine would be an absolute blast for the kind of riding I have planned with it. Absolutely screaming it out on the highway, listening to that beautiful sound would be so much fun. And I think it will perform admirably when it comes to the off-road riding too. Maybe not quite as good as the other 2 because it doesn't quite probably have that low-end feel of the twins, but still enough good low-end feeling from its new firing order that will give me some good fun when riding off-road. Finally, I love the fit and finish of the Triumph. Everything from its backlit switches to the premium electronics package that come as standard on this bike. Plus that big 30-litre tank would be perfect for when I have no fuel stops here in the middle of nowhere, Australia. And if you want to know what is the fundamental gear needed for a comfortable, warm, and enjoyable motorcycle camping experience, check this video right here.